All right, let's talk about something that hurts in a way you can't even explain to your friends without sounding dramatic, even though you know you're not. Emotional ghosting, not regular ghosting. That's the cheap kind. I'm talking about the one where someone shows up like they actually see you, like they're present, like they're building something with you. And then slowly, quietly, no announcement, no big exit. They vanish from the connection while still technically being in the room. You ever had that happen? You're texting, vibing, maybe even telling your friends, yo, I think this might actually be something. Dates are hitting, conversations are deep. They're telling you stuff like, I haven't felt this safe with someone in a long time. And you're out here thinking, damn, maybe it's finally my turn. Then one day, they just don't text back. Or they do, but it's colder, shorter, weird energy. Suddenly, you're Sherlock Holmes analyzing typing speed and punctuation like your life depends on it. But here's the thing, they didn't ghost your phone, they ghosted the emotional space between you. And that's where it hits the hardest. Someone emailed me about this. Robert. His story sat in my inbox like a quiet ache. Said he met this woman on Bumble. First date felt different, like actual alignment. Like, I see you and I'm not scared by it kind of energy. She told him she hadn't been on a date in 6 years, that he made her feel safe. Said it straight up. They both agreed it felt mutual. They went on a second date. Even better. Playful, easy, light. She offered to pay for drinks. One of those rare nights where the vibe is loud without anyone raising their voice. Then days go by. Quiet. He reaches out. Nothing. Sends a thoughtful follow-up. Still chill. Just asking, hey, if something shifted, that's okay. Just say it. She replies, says her dad's sick. He meets it with total compassion, like a grown man, says, take all the space you need, I get it. But then 2 days later, he sees her. Active now? On Hinge, not just online. Active now. Like, while he's giving her room to breathe, she's back on the apps breathing freely. He sends one more message. Calm, grounded. Just says he saw the contradiction. Says he's stepping back for his own peace. Says he's not mad, just honest. And then, nothing. No response, nothing. It wasn't a breakup. It wasn't a fight. It was just emptiness. That's emotional ghosting, when someone doesn't disappear from the screen. They disappear from the connection they co-created. And the worst part is, because their excuse sounds sympathetic, because it's serious, you feel like an a-hole even questioning it. You feel guilty for needing clarity. Like your emotional needs are suddenly selfish, but they're not. You're not. You know what happens when this kind of thing hits you? You start doubting yourself, your instincts, your pacing, your value. You replay every conversation, every touch, every text, trying to figure out if you missed something. When, really? What you missed was the part where they emotionally left the table, but left their drink there so it wouldn't look like they bailed. And let's be honest, most people don't talk about this kind of grief because it's invisible. There's no breakup post, no sad playlist, just a thread that quietly unraveled while you were still holding the needle. And the culture doesn't help. These days, everyone's nonchalant as a brand. Detachment is the dating aesthetic. Vulnerability gets treated like an inconvenience. And if you bring up your feelings, people act like you just confessed to a felony. You ever text someone something emotionally honest and then immediately feel like you need to apologize for being sincere? That's what this world is doing to people who love with their full chest. And here's the wild part. When someone ghosts you emotionally, you end up grieving potential. The future you started painting in your head. The dinner reservations, the holidays, the my friend would love you moment. All of it disappears, but there's no closure. You're just sitting there with all these unused feelings and nowhere to put them. It's not even just heartbreak. It's emotional whiplash. And I get it. Some people do pull away because they're overwhelmed. They're going through things. Life is heavy. But if they're going through hell, they don't need to hand you the matchbook and ghost you in the smoke. At least say something. At least let the other person step out of limbo. Because when you disappear emotionally but stay digitally present, you're not being considerate. You're being confusing. And confusion breeds insecurity. It makes people question everything. That's what happened to Robert, a grown man who was just trying to be intentional. Someone who came with honesty, empathy, patience, and instead of reciprocity, he got silence in a sympathy costume. And yo, maybe that's you too. Maybe you've been on the other end of that thread. Maybe you're still holding on to a connection that's already faded, hoping that if you just wait long enough, they'll come back with an explanation that makes it all make sense. Let me say this like I'm talking to you at 2 a.m., under neon lights, half sober and fully honest. You don't need to earn closure. You don't need to prove that you deserved more. You already did. If someone can't handle the kind of love you bring to the table, that's not your rejection, that's their limitation. You didn't fail for being real. They just weren't ready for it. And if you've been the emotional ghoster, yeah, this part's for you too. Because avoiding discomfort doesn't make you deep. Being busy isn't a replacement for basic decency. If you were overwhelmed, you could have said that. If you weren't feeling it anymore, you could have said that. If it got too real too fast, say that. Silence doesn't make you mysterious. It makes you emotionally unavailable in 4K. Do better. Be better. Not just for them, for you. Because if you keep exiting quietly, one day you're going to meet someone who actually gets you, and you'll blow it because you never learned how to stay in the room when things got vulnerable. This whole ghosting culture is just emotional debt. People creating messes that someone else ends up emotionally paying for. But you don't have to take on that debt. You don't have to stay in someone's unread messages, hoping they suddenly become who they were pretending to be at the beginning. You can choose peace. You can say, "This isn't what I want to feel like," and mean it. You can walk away from confusion, from breadcrumbs, from people who can only offer you half a connection with a full smile. Because you know what's rare? Real ones. People who text back with intention, who don't leave you in emotional limbo, who mean what they say even when it's uncomfortable. And if that's how you show up, protect that. Not everyone deserves access to that version of you, especially not someone who only knew how to be present when it was convenient. And I know, walking away from ambiguity is hard. It's tempting to hold on. But holding on to what almost was is just emotional self-harm in slow motion. So if this felt like your story, if you felt even a tiny part of yourself exhale hearing this, take it as your reminder. You don't have to keep explaining yourself to people who disappeared from their own intentions. You're allowed to outgrow confusion. You're allowed to stop romanticizing silence. You're allowed to stop grieving someone who never gave you clarity. Because emotional ghosting isn't a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their readiness. And if they couldn't meet you where you were, that doesn't make you too much. That makes you ready for something real, and yeah, you're not alone in this. Robert wasn't. You aren't. If this brought something up in you, if your heart's been a little too quiet lately because of something like this, just know there's a whole army of people out here feeling the exact same ache. And somehow, that makes it hurt a little less. So go protect your peace. Reclaim your clarity. And next time someone says, "I want something real," watch how they show up after that. That's the real truth. Always in the after, you got this.